Hi everyone. Yesterday in class we finished the sections together on using a time travel graph. So we filled in these together, and also we did 2 and 3. So make sure get these answers in if you don't have them already. Now today you're going to be going off of this based off of your information and our data from the travel time graph. And we'll be completing this section here, numbers 1 and 2. Now we did this section right here together. We did Los Angeles, and if you'll remember, we found out the P wave and S wave gap by looking at our seismogram. Remember, we counted the distance between our P wave and our S wave, so don't forget each bar represents 1 minute. So we determined our Los Angeles P wave S wave gap was 5 minutes. And to determine the distance, remember, we had to go back and look at our travel time graph. Now, when you're doing the next one, particularly, right, we got to do St. Louis, Missouri next. And St. Louis is actually the one on the bottom on the next page here. You'll see that our gap here is essentially just 1 minute. Now, when you're looking at this, and you had filled in, all right, hey, we got a 1 minute gap for our St. Louis one. And that we can kind of deduct then that St. Louis is quite a bit closer to the epicenter than Los Angeles. Now, to be precise on this, you're thinking, okay, 1 minute. I don't want you to just try to kind of eyeball it. I recommend grabbing a ruler. And what you can do to make sure that you're accurate with a 1 minute gap is measure out on our y-axis how many millimeters 1 minute is. So if you're to look close, it's actually about over 1 centimeter. It's close, but it's actually roughly 11.5, 12 millimeters. So then what you can do is you got to measure out, all right, where is 12 millimeters gap between our P and S wave? So you have to find that, and it's going to be in this range here. So look closely as you're using a ruler here. You'll do the same thing for your Texas gap here. So that will be in this area. California is definitely our longest distance from the epicenter. Now, after you have these filled in, then you're going to be going on to number 2, where it's going to require you to use this map here. This is going to help us determine the epicenter. So you'll come grab one of these, and you also need a compass. And you need this data table here. So after you have your compass, what I recommend doing if you haven't used a compass in a while is on the back side of this, just kind of practice drawing one quick. And I know some of you are like, oh, I can just, move the paper, make sure the definite weight is on the needle here so your pencil doesn't slip. You can either do that and draw a nice circle, or if you're savvy and coordinated, just hold it tight, and then you can just carefully spin around. And sometimes you kind of gotta make sure you have enough pressure on the needle. Spin around like so. So you can do that one of 2 ways. So practice until you can get a nice clean circle, because the front side should be nice and neat. There shouldn't be a bunch of messy circles here. So to fill this in, you have to look back at our distance from epicenter in miles. So we have 2,000 miles for LA. That means on the scale on the bottom, we have to span out our compass, put our needle at 0, and get this out to 2,000 miles. Once you do that, what you can do is you're going to put the needle up at LA, like so. And then now the paper isn't big enough for you to do a complete circle, so you'll just start down here, make sure you have pressure on the LA needle, and then draw carefully all the way up to the other side. And so this is kind of what you have. Right? And the important thing is you're going to kind of try to notice where these lines intersect. Okay? So you'll do the same thing, but first you got to figure out your distance for St. Louis and Houston, and then put those circles on here. So when you're doing your Houston one, you'll just have the needle starting here. When you're doing the St. Louis one, you'll have the needle starting at St. Louis. After you're done with that, you should be able to determine, after you watch that little look at those slides that I posted on the email, you'll be able to figure out where the epicenter is, and you'll circle that on here, but it will be, I'll give you a hint, in this area here. When you're finished with that, you've determined the epicenter. Make sure you finish these questions, 1, 2, and then 3 through 5 on the back. Then you can submit those. I got a couple videos that you can watch after that if you have time left. Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks.